Welcome back into Exit 99 Sports. As always, my name is Caleb DeLoach, and excited to kind of get into some more spring sport talk today. And, with that, we've kind of caught up this past episode to the last month or so of the spring sports calendar. We had come in kind of hanging on to basketball season. We did an interview with Coach Brownsberger from Jackson, and so, we're caught up, kind of able to get back into the normal flow of things here where we kind of get into games that happened this past week and games that are going to be going on this upcoming week and what to watch for and all that good stuff. So it's just going to be me today, no Cody, so shout out to Cody. But we're going to be soloing the pod alone today, and I'll just jump right in. We'll just go sport by sport, try to cover everything that I can, everything I have all the information for. And we will start with baseball this past week. Starting Monday, April 7th, Jackson took on Hillsboro. They were able to get the field cleaned off, playing on the dirt. A lot of work by the coaches, so shout out to all the coaches, everybody that was involved, getting everything dried up over there. They were able to take on Hillsboro, came up with a big 8-1 win in that one, and then over for Cape Central, playing on the same day, they actually were able to get off the schneid. So that was exciting for Cape Central. Got their first victory of the season, 3-0 over Dexter, who's a solid team. I was pretty impressed with the fact that Cape was able to knock off the Bearcats. And they were led by Keegan Palmer, coach's son, pitching that game. He went 5 2/3 innings, 10 strikeouts, only gave up 4 hits, 2 walks. So a big day on the mound for Keegan Palmer. And, at the plate, Jathan Spain, Braden Mead both went 2 for 3, kind of leading the offense there. The only two players in multi-hits there in that one. So 3-0 victory for Cape. Positive momentum carried into the very next day, Tuesday. They played Park Hill Central at home as well. Got a win there, 10-6. So Cape, slow start. I think it was 6 straight losses. Got into the flow of things a little bit better. Picked up a couple wins this past week. So that's good to see. And then, I will say Saxony pick up a very big win over St. Vincent. The private school battle there, Saxony dominated St. Vincent 15-2. So the Crusaders getting a big win this past week early on. And then the big game of the past week, Jackson and Notre Dame. Notre Dame went to Jackson and came up with a big 4-3 victory. Something that doesn't happen a lot around here in general. Jackson losing to SEMO Conference teams. And Jackson had not lost to Notre Dame since 2021. So it was a big, big win for the Bulldogs. And they actually won via walk-off hit by pitch in the bottom of the 7th inning. I believe the first 2 men got on. They intentionally walked to load the bases, and then 2-2 count, plunked a guy. So picked up a big win there, Notre Dame. 4-3 over Jackson. Notre Dame only had 3 hits, I think, the entire ball game, and I think 2 of them came in the final inning. So clutch hitting when they needed it, came up with the big play, got the big win, and the first time since 2016 that Notre Dame has won at Jackson. So a big-time accomplishment, big-time win for Notre Dame. Unfortunately, they just kind of went downhill after that for Notre Dame the rest of the week. Just looking at just the Bulldogs, Wednesday, they played Dexter, who, like I said, good team. Cape Central knocked them off early in the week, and then Dexter turned around, beat Notre Dame 11-6. Logan Londaway, T.J. Boland, Colton Londaway all came up with RBIs, but not enough. Notre Dame kind of got shelled a little bit, giving up 11, losing that one 11-6. Then Friday, Notre Dame's back out. They lose big to Farmington 10-4. And then they do play Saturday. They played 2 games Saturday. Got beat by Carterville 11-1 over in Illinois, and then also lost to Unity High School over there 7-6. So weird week for Notre Dame. I know kind of from being in it, the motivation when teams play Jackson in baseball nowadays, football, some of those sports where Jackson really has a stranglehold in the area. I know people get fired up for those ball games. It's a big emotional game. These guys play together, kids from Notre Dame, Cape Jackson. They played together since they were kids, played against each other since they were kids. And so Notre Dame, big emotional victory on Tuesday, but then, loss the rest of the week. You got to try to find a way to kind of carry that positive momentum, and a big win over. They were not able to do so. They do have several opportunities this week. We'll get into that here in a moment. Also, this past week on Wednesday, Cape Central played Seckman. So busy week this past week for Cape Central. Got win on Monday, win on Tuesday, but they do lose to Seckman. Bigger school, 3-0 there on Wednesday. So a good start to the week, but come up with the loss there. But then Saxony over in Fruitland takes on Charleston. The Charleston team is usually pretty solid. Beat them 11-1. Might be down a little bit this year, the Blue Jays, but Saxony, the bat's really alive here this past week. Put up 15 against St. Vincent, 11 against Charleston, so it's exciting to see for the Crusaders. I mentioned Notre Dame lost to Farmington on Friday. That was a real lone, Cape Girardeau area game we had. And then Saturday, I mentioned Notre Dame went over across the river, lost a couple games. Cape played Valley, one of the best, small schools in the region, you can say, up there in St. John. Valley, tough team, beat Cape 3-1. Low-scoring game, but they do come up with that victory. And Jackson played a doubleheader at home. They hosted SLU High and Lutheran St. Charles. They went 1-1. They lost the first game to SLU High, 6-2. SLU's a very good team. SLU jumped on them early. They scored 4 runs in the second. It was just kind of, they held on from there, won 6-2. Indians did some things. They, like I said, got hit early in the ball game. We'll give props to Ryan Turlington, came out of the bullpen, pitched 5 1/3 innings, only gave up 4 hits, 1 walk, 2 earned runs. So good outing for Turlington. Adler Flynn had 3 hits in the ball game. Peyton Kite had 2, but not a lot else going for the Indians. Against SLU High, good Metro Catholic Conference team, good competition, the kind of competition you want if you're Jackson to see, quite often as you do play in the biggest class in the state. You're going to face really good teams. You're going to be playing big-time D1 guys when you get into the playoffs every ball game. So good experience, but Indians do come up a little short there. But they didn't turn around, bounce back, and got a big victory over Lutheran St. Charles, 10-0. And the kind of person to highlight there, pitcher Cole Burrell, went 4 innings, 8 Ks, 2 walks, 3 hits. So a great outing by him. He's been pretty consistent throughout the season from what I've seen, keeping up with the Indians. Cole Burrell's looked good in all of his starts. I've been really impressed. Kind of maybe unheralded, maybe coming into the year a little bit, in my opinion, at least for me. Not one of the names I was expecting to see, but then he comes out and he's been pitching really, really well. So it's been exciting to see for him. And that pretty much does it baseball-wise this past week. I said a pretty good week, a busy week throughout the area here in Cape and Jackson. Cape Central getting 2 victories, getting off that winless start, and Saxony picking up a couple victories as well. So a good week here in the Cape Girardeau area. In that big, like I said, crazy game-winning hit by pitch, Notre Dame comes up with a victory. That does it for baseball this past week. One note, tennis, the SEMO Conference Championships went on, and Poplar Bluff won the team title. Notre Dame got second as a team, and Cape and Jackson actually tied for third. So a decent run there by all the Cape Jackson teams. Matthew Alston of Notre Dame, dominant run to the singles championship there. He won the title game 6-1, 6-1, the title match 6-1, 6-1. So a good tournament for him. Like I said, he pretty much rolled and then just destroyed in the championship. So congrats to Matthew. And then Notre Dame turned around, and actually won the Poplar Bluff Invitational just a couple days later over at Poplar Bluff. So a little bit of a get back for the team of Notre Dame there, going to Poplar Bluff, coming up with a big victory. In tennis, something a little bit more busy. Soccer, girls soccer that is, going on in the area this past week. On Monday, tough first game to start out. Jackson loses to Lindbergh 1-0 in double overtime. Tough back-and-forth game. Lindbergh, a big school, a district opponent. So very, very possible, very likely Jackson will see this Lindbergh team again come playoff time. Jackson dropping their first game to Lindbergh. But it'll be a tough stretch coming up for the Indians. We'll get to that here in a minute. They're playing a lot of good opponents this upcoming week. And so they start off the week with their first loss of the season. Like I said, Lindbergh, another big school, tough opponent, in-district opponent. So a big-time game there, 1-0 Indians fall. Over for Cape Central, they were hosting Perryville, lost that one 2-1. It's been a pretty slow start for the Tigers in girls soccer. But they were able to bounce back Tuesday. Went and played Kelly, won that one 8-0. So a nice win for Cape Central, kind of bounced back. Kelly, small school, a lot smaller than Cape Jackson, who they have played already this year. But a good, confidence-building win for Cape Central. Maybe get a little bit of momentum going for the Tigers. And then Saxony played on Tuesday. They played against St. Louis Christian, won that one 5-1. And a pretty dominant victory there by Saxony going and playing St. Louis Christian. On Wednesday, we actually had a big one in Cape Girardeau here, Cape County, Jackson beat Notre Dame 4-1. So a big rivalry, those two. By far, usually the class of Southeast Missouri when it comes to girls soccer. Depending on the year, some years Notre Dame kind of had the upper hand. Jackson has felt like they've had the upper hand now for a little while. And they come up with that 4-1. Maya Domian, the All-Stater, had 2 goals there, a free kick in the 43rd minute and a penalty kick in the 50th minute. And she was joined by Riley Monaghan and Brooke Balsman, both scored there right at the end of the first half. Riley's came on a header, and Brooke Balsman came on a penalty kick right at the end of the half. Maya Thibault, I believe, excuse me if I pronounced the name wrong, Maya Thibault, scored the lone goal for the Bulldogs in the 78th minute right before this one wrapped up. And I think I mentioned it in the last pod. Jackson's starting goalie, Cameron Alsdorf, some sort of hand injury, I believe. And so Jackson's been rolling with the freshman back there in goal. She's done very well. And they've been playing pretty well. Like I said, only loss on the season, 1-0 to Lindbergh. So a solid start so far for the Indians. They continued that Friday this past week. They played Farmington. Rolled over Farmington 8-0. So something that's not too surprising, but nice to see Indians keeping the positive start to the season going. Big win over Farmington. Cape Central lost to Murfreesboro, Illinois 2-0. And then Notre Dame dropped one to Collinsville 1-0. Played a busy week for Notre Dame because then they went back out and played St. Charles East from Illinois and lost that one 2-1. And Cape Central played Belleville East and lost that 7-0. So a tough end of the weekend there for Cape Central over on the pitch. Got to, like I said, try to turn things around a little bit slowly but surely. A little bit of a down year for the Cape girls. It's been, I would say, a roller coaster of the last few years for them. It's kind of up and down. Right now, kind of on the down slope, it feels like. But a good program, and I'm hoping they do kind of get some wins under their belt here as the season progresses. And then the next thing I'm excited to kind of talk about, track and field. Had a couple of interesting track meets that went on. There was a big one here at Cape Central Invitational. No Jackson at the Cape Central Invitational, but it was, the Tigers were there, Notre Dame was there was Saxony runners there. So it was a competitive meet. Just rattle off some of the top finishers for Cape Central. Breon Clemens, Torrance Murray, both did well in the 100. They finished 5 and 6 there. Clemens got the upper hand, 11.29. Murray finished at 11.30. Excuse me. Hudson Dennis, sophomore from Notre Dame, big boy, finishing 7th, moving at 11.47. So impressive finish there for Dennis. Cape Central getting up there, scoring some points for Clemens and Murray. Over in the 200, Murray was the top finisher for Cape Central, coming in 3rd at 23.52. So good race by Murray there. Dennis, 24.27. So like I said, young guy, they're moving for his size, 6'4", 200 plus, big kid. So pretty good sprint speed. It's kind of impressive seeing him out there. He's a great athlete, great basketball player, great swimmer. So a very, very talented athlete over there for the Bulldogs. Over in the 400, the high finisher in Cape County was actually Maxim Mayhew from Saxony, finishing fourth in 53.83. Aiden Dockery from Cape Central right behind at 54.14. So good races out of them. And one person I'd like to highlight who's having a heck of a season thus far. I'm planning on going back and kind of compiling all the numbers up to this point. But Aiden Morris, freshman over at Notre Dame, came in first in the 3,200. He's been hovering right around that 10-minute mark, finished 10:02.05 to come up first. Won by 6 seconds over teammate Jackson Jones, who finished at 10:08. Aiden Morris, the real deal. Listed on here, only a freshman, so I'm very excited to keep following his career. Going to be one of those people I expect to see making a lot of trips to state and, maybe eventually racking up maybe some medals there up at state. So a very promising young runner over at Notre Dame as always. They're very, very good in the long distances. And just another Morris here on the board over there at Notre Dame, coming in right around 10 minutes there in the 3,200. Very, very nice mark. Guess I can mention another person that's kind of been consistently doing pretty well. Cape Central's Warren Eanes ran 39.64, won big in the 300-meter hurdles for Cape Central. Hasn't been impressive. He ran well. Ran all right in the 100, got fourth there in 16.54. Sam Carr from Notre Dame bested him at 16.28 to finish third. But I've liked what I've seen out of Eanes in the hurdle, especially the 300 thus far. Been running really well to start the season. And then, kind of over on the field side and get off the track. I mean, the one guy who's been one of the most impressive athletes in Southeast Missouri on the track all season, Kent Sheridan won the pole vault. No surprise whatsoever. Won by an entire meter. Finished at 4.7 meters. I mean, a week or two ago, he broke the school record, the meet record, the track record up at Festus. I mean, he's the real deal. Kent Sheridan, another guy I'm expecting to be he finished third, I think, this past year at the state meet. I'm expecting him to be up there again and be very, very competitive. I don't know for certain. I'm going to look into if he is going to be participating up in at Kansas, at the Kansas Relays. That is a big-time meet. I know it's on Cape Central's schedule. I know they're not going to take the whole team up there, but I would have to assume Sheridan will be on the list of competitors up there. If so, that'll be a big-time meet to see how he kind of stacks up against some really, really good vaulters in the entire Midwest region. In the throws, some other good numbers put up by Cape Central throwers. Zykel Hall finished second in the discus, 43.51. Good showing by Zykel. And then in the shot put, it was Isaiah Husky dominant over the rest of the field in the shot put. He threw 17.3. The next closest, 14.66, Kevin Thompson from Kennett. And Zykel Hall actually came in third, 14.3 meters there in the shot put. So the rower is looking very, very nice right now for Cape Central. Speaking of people that look good right now for Cape Central, the freshman Taraji Riley, phenomenal race, coming up 12.37 to win the 100. And, I mean, for a freshman to be running like that, especially in a tough field. She ran against a couple of runners from New Madrid County Central. Maya Bills, I believe, was a state champion a year ago in her classification in 100 meters. So big time showing by her. Aaliyah Jackson at Cape Central also got fifth at 12.90. So good program over there right now. Taraji Riley, another freshman to definitely keep your eyes on here at Cape Central. One person I just want to give a shout out to, not in Cape County, but Carly Kosu over at Chaffee broke their school record in the 400, ran 58.52 in the 400. She was just in every single race there is. I think she won the 100 hurdles as well. She was competitive in one of the jumps. So a phenomenal athlete. I'm kind of curious to see if she's able to qualify in 4 different events for the state meet and see what kind of points she can put up by herself. Very, very talented. Very, very talented athlete that's been, running and jumping really well. But just kind of outside of our area. And then another freshman, Notre Dame, Martina Ressel, Won the 800 big by 6 seconds, over 6 seconds, 2:25. Lily Coy came in third from Notre Dame, 2:33. So nice meet there out of Notre Dame. Little mid-distance runners. And then, like I mentioned, it was, Carly Kosu won the 100-meter hurdles. Maya Farrar from Cape came in second, 17:05. And Maria Sire from Notre Dame came in third at 17:20. Then Lily Carr came in second in the 300 hurdles, and Maya Farrar came in third. So a good meet, boys and girls. One other person to give a shout out to, Jesse Iwuchukwu, a freshman from Notre Dame, 152 in the high jump. Nice showing as a freshman there. Yeah, it's been a good early season for some of the individuals out here. Some of the teams looking pretty good as well. And a lot to keep track of for over on the track. And then I guess the boys meet for the Jackson Indians. Like I said, Jackson was not over at the Cape Invitational. Their team split up, went to a couple different meets this past week. And the boys were at Eureka, and they had some pretty good showings there. It was a pretty competitive field, a lot of St. Louis teams. Poplar Bluff was actually up there as well. And, the two guys I talk about a lot for Jackson, Blaine and Barrett Reagan, they ran a 400. Ho-hum, 49 seconds, 49 low. Blaine won 49.24. Barrett came in second, 49.32, just ahead of Landon Deaton from Poplar Bluff, running sub 50 as well, 49.52. So they're pushed a little bit. Not near kind of their PRs per se. I know Blaine ran, 47.8, I think, or 47.9 earlier in the season. Barrett's run 48 low pretty consistently. So a second or so off their normal pace, but a win is a win, and just trying to get good competition, face good runners, and that's what they're doing here up in St. Louis. And then Nate Meisner, a good finish here in 1600, 439.71. Nice time there by him. And it was a pretty competitive meet, like I said. Not a lot of Indians, dominating the race. One thing that was impressive, you've kind of seen more and more, if you follow some of the track meets, Jackson winning the 4x100. Maybe not something they're used to doing. 42.72. Next closest was Poplar Bluff at 43.19. So the Indians, at 4x100 team, looking pretty good. They have good sprinters. You have the Reagans, Jalen Hampton, Memphis Maddox, a couple of running backs are very good. Evan Turley, wide receiver on the football team, has been running really well in the sprints as well. So the Jackson 4x1 team making some noise. And then the 4x4 team won big as well. They ran 3:24. Next closest Poplar Bluff at 3:27. Once again, you've got the Reagans, who are the fastest kids in Southeast Missouri, probably the fastest on the eastern side of the state, to my knowledge, in the 400. So Jackson is going to be very competitive, and looking to potentially send that 4x4 team to the state meet. I think one day, maybe that 4x1 team, we'll see. I'll be looking into where they can rack up, get that time down to, and see how they can kind of compete against other big schools. Schools out of Kansas City, St. Louis, put up ridiculous times in the 4x1, stuff like that. So it'll be something to keep an eye on for sure, see how they are able to compete once they get up and kind of face the big boys. I'll give a shout-out to Mason Turley. Got second there in the pole vault, 394. Solid showing by him. A phenomenal multi-sport athlete, Bryson Wessel. I believe, third-place finisher in state in wrestling, all-state left tackle. And he won the meet up at Eureka, 48-16 in the discus, won by nearly 4 meters there. Gavin Shin coming in 6th. And Rowan Glass in the javelin coming in 5th there for the Indians. And then Shin came back in the shot put. I believe a PR 15:34 to finish 3rd for Shin. Only a sophomore, so a nice start to the track career for him as well. Throwing well right now. Jackson, history of pretty good throwers. Like I said, Wessel, kind of the standout at the moment there. But yeah, these guys kind of keeping that solid tradition alive. And the girls, like I mentioned, kind of split up the teams. The boys went to Eureka. The girls went to Webster Grove, Statesman Invitational over there. And has some decent showings. Brooklyn Williams, a very good sprinter for the Indians. She came in third in the 100, 13 flat there. A good 100 runner, 200 runner, a good jumper as well. In the 400, freshman Elena Kintner finished in 103.88, so pretty nice pace there for a freshman. Anytime, kind of the number for me, like in Southeast Missouri, if a girl is at that like 1 minute mark and starting to get below the 1 minute mark, that's very, very good, very serious around here. And in the 800, Indians finished 3-4 with a couple of freshmen as well, Adelina Williams and Claire Kitchen, respectively, coming in at 3:32 and 3:33. So good showing by those girls. Emma Needbalski finishing 5:21 in the 1600, coming in second. So nice showing by her as well. A lot of good runs here out of Indians. Kendall Leland coming in first in the 300 meters at 50.5. So a great weekend there for her. Indians 4x4 team and their 4x8 team coming up victorious as well. The 4x4 team won by 7 seconds. So the 4x4 team by 7 seconds. So they're running very well as a group. It's kind of where Jackson can thrive there in that mid-distance, having some of their longer distance girls come down to the 400, kind of showing off that sprint speed that they do have. Yeah, so the Indians competing well. Amelia Fox coming in second as a freshman in the pole vault. So you keep hearing me say freshman quite a bit. Jackson, a very, very good freshman group in a lot of sports. They have several freshmen in basketball that are very talented, boys and girls. A lot of, talented freshmen in football on that side. A lot of freshmen all across the board at Jackson right now, making names for themselves. Emerson Gross, in the discus won at 32.56. And she won the shot put at 11.15 meters as well. So big-time meet for her. Throwing very, very well. Somebody I expect to be competitive once we do get to districts and beyond for the Indians. But that's pretty much it on the track side for this past week. I know talking about track can be a little monotonous at times. There's a lot of me just reading numbers and times and distances, but it's fun for me. I love watching track meets. I love getting out there. It's always something going on. It is a lot going on. There's all over the place usually, depending on where you're at. And they take forever sometimes. I will admit that as well. But I'm a big fan of getting out on the track and kind of seeing these people compete. It is the most basic form of competition. Hey, who's the fastest? Who can jump the highest, jump the furthest? It's what you've been doing since you were a kid. But it's fun. It's fun to see. It's fun to compete. Fun to watch the guys get out there and, push themselves, try and break PRs, because it's a very individual sport. So it's fun to kind of see a little bit different than watching basketball, football, stuff like that. Anyway, coming into this week, pretty busy, especially on the front half of the week. We'll start on the baseball side like we did talking about this past week. Notre Dame starts off Monday playing against Marion, Illinois. And, Notre Dame, 5-7-1. Up and down start to the season. Like I said, last week, big win over Jackson, 4-3. And then after that, it's just a slide back down, loss. Can they kind of turn it around this week? Tough opponent, Marion, Illinois. But see if they can get a win there over against an Illinois squad. Saxony will go on the road to Ellington. Ellington only 1-11, so definitely a winnable game for the Crusaders. Saxony currently sitting at 5-4, so a winnable game I would expect for Saxony. Somebody I think that they will win probably and win pretty convincingly. That does it for Monday. Tuesday, a pretty busy day, and you get another big rivalry game. Jackson on the road at Cape Central, 4 p.m. Scheduled start time there. Cape Central, not a great start to the season. 2-8, but two of those wins, the only two wins, were last week. And so you hope, hey, maybe they can probably string together a little bit of positive momentum. Big chance here. Jackson, a team that, like with Notre Dame, they've struggled against. But Indians 6-5 have played very, very tough competition, obviously. The majority of their losses coming to state-ranked teams. Obviously, Notre Dame got them last week. So definitely one to keep an eye on, to be at Cape Central. And I can't say for certain, but I'm going to just say for certain enough, certain-ish. I think Ryan Winkler will be on the call for this one. He'll have it live streaming. I'm assuming it'll be on Cape Central Sports on YouTube is where to find it. And if it is on the radio, 95.7 Cape FM, I believe is where he calls the games at. So definitely check out Ryan. Go watch that game. Get out to the field. The weather's nice. I'm hoping we get some nice weather here. Hope it holds out, but the rain does kind of come and go this time of year. Notre Dame will be at Poplar Bluff. As I mentioned, Notre Dame currently 5-6-1. They'll have Marion at home Monday, and then Tuesday at Bluff. Bluff 8-6, another SEMO conference team. Always competitive, always solid. Will not be an easy one for Notre Dame, but I am going to be rooting for Notre Dame there. And as always, anybody that plays Poplar Bluff, I'm going to be rooting again. Sorry, Poplar Bluff. Saxony then will host East Carter, a very good small school. They're 6-6 right now on Tuesday as well. Wednesday, another busy day. Jackson is at Seckman, who just knocked off Cape Central last week. And Notre Dame will be at Valley, who also beat Cape Central. And that will be a tough game. I'll be pulling for Notre Dame. But Valley currently 12-1, one of the best small schools in the area all the time. So it will be tough to go up to St. John and come away with a victory. But Notre Dame has the tools to do it. They beat Jackson. So the ability is there. They just got to put it all together for 7 innings. Saxony then host Kelly, who's 2-7. So another winnable game, I think, for Saxony. Saxony keeps stringing wins together. The season's going to look really, really nice. They're trending toward a very good regular season. And then Cape Central Thursday heads up to Windsor. A little off the beaten path of 55. Windsor sits at 5-5 on the year. So a winnable game for sure for Cape Central. I think Cape will come away with a win there over the Owls of Windsor. But it will be tough. Pitching will be kind of the difference maker, I think, in that one. Yeah, this Thursday, Jackson will go on the road for a pretty big time, tournament, if you will, kind of showcase up there at Rockbridge High School in Columbia. They'll be playing 3 very, very quality opponents starting Thursday with Willard, who's 11-2, one of the premier teams in Southwest Missouri. I believe somebody who Jackson's faced off against a few times. Very, very, very tough squad. The Indians will have to bring it in that one. Then Friday, they will play a doubleheader. They face Grain Valley and Sedalia, 2 good teams. Sedalia a little bit east of Kansas City, Grain Valley more in the Kansas City area. Big-time matchups for the Indians. 3 games they could win, 3 games they could lose. This is going to be a tough competition up there in Columbia. For Jackson, it's just kind of doing the little things, playing good defense, and then, maybe a little bit better plate discipline. Something that I saw Coach mention on SEMO Ball the other day. He just said, hey, we're striking out too much, need to do better at the plate, need to take care of our business. So maybe the Indians, kind of get back to the basics, lock in on pitch selection there a little bit better. They can start racking up big wins against very, very good opponents. Like I said, this Jackson team sitting at 6-5, maybe not the record you expect to see out of the Indians, but far from panic time if you're an Indian fan, in my opinion. They're playing good competition everywhere they play. They did drop one to Notre Dame, might be a little uncharacteristic, but it's baseball. You give up 3 hits, but you lose. It's a weird sport like that sometimes. But the Indians, 3 big opportunities at the end of this next week up there at Rockbridge. So going to be rooting for them, pulling for them to come up with a couple of big-time wins and get back here and hopefully start playing good baseball for the stretch run. We're down to the last month and a half of the season. So time to start getting into mid-season form if you are the Indians. Now, that does it for baseball. We can go over to soccer for this next week. No games on Monday in Cape Jackson area, but Tuesday, Notre Dame goes up to St. Vincent Notre Dame currently sitting at 2-5. It's been a tough start so far for the Lady Bulldogs, but once again, they've been playing tough competition. And they go up to St. Vincent, who is 6-1 as well. I mean, this is not going to be an easy road trip for Notre Dame. This is not a game they can just expect to, roll over St. Vincent and win. St. Vincent team's been playing good competition. They've been winning games. They've been playing big schools, maybe not the best big schools, but they've been playing big schools and winning. So it will be a tough test. I'll be pulling for Notre Dame. Maybe I will give them the legacy advantage, but they're down a little bit this season. 2-5, like I said, kind of uncharacteristic, but a chance for a nice win up in Perryville. And then also Tuesday, Cape Central, speaking of chances to win a ball game, hosting Sikeston. Sikeston 4-3, Cape Central coming in 1-6 this week. It won't be easy. Sikeston, a good SEMO conference team. Maybe kind of sitting below Jackson and some others pretty consistently, but they're going to be a tough out. Hopefully the kind of home field advantage for Cape Central is enough to push them to victory there. Wednesday, Notre Dame is back out at Saxony, so a big-time in-county rivalry there. Saxony, also a very solid team as always. It'll be a good matchup. These are two teams that know each other well. Like I said, all the Cape County players in baseball, soccer, anything, they've seen each other their whole lives. They've been playing together and against each other forever. So this will be a good rivalry matchup between Notre Dame and Saxony. I'll maybe lean Notre Dame slightly in who I think is going to win, but this could go either way in my opinion. And then, how I mentioned Jackson's really kind of testing themselves up at Rockbridge on the baseball side. Soccer is no different. The Indians take a big road trip out west to Springfield, play at Kickapoo Showcase, and they are going to be playing some very, very, very stout competition. They start Thursday. They'll be playing Timberland. Timberland's a suburban St. Louis school. Timberland's 6-1 on the year, so no slouch. Jackson 7-1 coming in, and the one loss to Lindbergh is a big school as well in double overtime. So Jackson with a big chance to kind of put that behind them and playing some more very, very talented teams. And Friday, they play maybe the best team in Springfield, Glendale, 5-0. They produce a lot of very, very talented players. Shout out Kendra Lears, one of the best goalies to ever do it here at SEMO. She played at Glendale. And so that'll be a tough game for the Indians. It doesn't stop there. They play the host, Kickapoo, on Saturday, who is 8-1. So what is that? 2 combined losses between these three teams and 19 combined victories between the three teams. So this is going to be a big-time test for the Indians. Starting goalie out, facing some good teams, but Jackson does this. They push themselves in girls soccer. They're always playing tough competition. I believe they've been going to this Kickapoo Showcase for some time. They're very competitive year in and year out over there. And, hey, I will not pick against them to lose any game they play. Could they struggle against these teams? Yes, but I do think they have a good chance to succeed and maybe pick up some wins over there as well. A lot of talent up and down this Jackson roster. And so I have no doubts in their ability to come up with some big wins, but it will definitely be something to keep an eye on, something to keep track of. That does it for soccer. Maybe some of the other sports I haven't mentioned as much. Track and field. Trying to find where teams are going to be is a little bit difficult, I'll say. I believe Saxony is going to be over at Scott City on the 14th, Scott City Open. So a good kind of local meet over there for Saxony runners to get out and be very competitive in, I expect. And then the big one up in Kansas, the Kansas Relays. That's not a meet you take your whole team to. It's pretty selective, invitational. And so it's always cool kind of seeing local kids getting up there and competing and, maybe even placing high is always very, very tough up there at Kansas, because this is not just a Missouri meet or whatever. It is a regional, national regional meet. It is, you're going to have the best kids from Missouri, Kansas, Iowa, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Arkansas. There's going to be a lot of very, very talented runners, throwers, jumpers, etc. up there at Kansas. So I don't know who to expect necessarily. I kind of have an idea that I assume the Reagans will be up there. I'm curious to see how they compete. I'm hoping Kent Sheridan gets a chance to go up there from Cape Central, but I'm just speculating. I don't know for sure. But I hope to see kind of these standouts here in Southeast Missouri get out of the area and compete and, kind of see where they stack up. It's going to be a championship level competition up there at Kansas. So it's an opportunity to kind of exercise those, hey, I might be somebody to the state championship final. What does that feel like? What are the kids going to look like? You're going to see them up there at Kansas. So big time meet there. Definitely something to watch out for. Slated for the 17th through the 19th. And then moving into golf, maybe something I've kind of not had my eye on as strongly, I will be honest. I'm going to do a better job trying to kind of find results over on the golf side. Pretty busy week, though, here in Cape Jackson area. On the 14th, we got the Poplar Bluff Invitational that Notre Dame will be competing in. And then Jackson is going to be up to St. Louis. The way it's on the schedule, it just says they're going to be playing at Fort Zumwalt South. I don't know exactly what that looks like. This is going to be just a head-to-head with them in Fort Zumwalt South. I don't know. But I'll definitely be looking for the results there. On the 16th, St. John is hosting a tournament that Saxony is supposed to be going up to. But then the big one here in Cape Girardeau, Notre Dame will be hosting their invitational over at Dalhousie. It's big time. I mean, Dalhousie is a beautiful, beautiful course. So hopefully the weather holds out, because then the 17th, Cape Central at the Cape Country Club will be, hosting competition there. Them, Sykeston, Dexter are all slated to be in attendance. So some very good golf coming up here in Cape Jackson. Hopefully the weather holds out. Like I said, this time of year, you never know. Rain comes and goes. Wind has been insane. So hopefully some of that kind of subsides. We get to see some good competition there over there at Dalhousie and Cape Country Club this week. And then the last, sport that I also haven't really talked about, haven't kept up with too much, but I'm going to be keep a little bit closer eye on. Boys volleyball's in swing right now, in season. For those that don't know, we do have two teams in the county that have boys volleyball, Notre Dame and Saxony. Saxony sitting at 4-4, relatively new program, only been in existence a couple years. Notre Dame, a lot more established. They've been around now for, I believe, about a decade. I could be off, but I think they've been around for a little while. They are 5-1 right now, playing well. So we'll definitely be keeping an eye on them and hoping, they continue to play well and just kind of see how they do. Start stacking up against some very, very talented teams in the St. Louis area. It's where boys volleyball really thrives up there in the the private schools and the suburban schools up there in St. Louis. So it's always cool seeing kind of the local kids be able to knock off teams like that. It just about does it when it comes to, stuff that's going on, recapping last week and then talking about this upcoming week. That does it for Cape Jackson area. I do have a couple of, end of show shout outs, if you will. One, I mentioned Maya Domian over at Jackson. Probably going to be a 3-time All-Stater by the time she graduates. She just committed to SEMO the other day, so congratulations to Maya. Big-time accomplishment. Super exciting for her family, the whole gang. That's very, very big time. And I believe that makes 5 Indians in the last 5 years to go over to SEMO. So a big, good, strong pipeline between Jackson and SEMO. Obviously, no surprise. SEMO, the only game in town when it comes to girls soccer, and then Jackson, the premier team for the last decade or so in girls soccer. And so, Maya continuing that legacy. I know the Nelsons just ended their run retiring over there at SEMO, and they recruited Jackson pretty heavily throughout the years. And now Maya, now in the new regime, kind of making a name for herself over there. So definitely be exciting to keep up with her, watch her play for SEMO. They're always been a good competitive team to watch. And excited time for her. And another former athlete from Cape Central, Cam Williams, who was awesome while he was in high school over at Cape. I mean, super dominant big man, beat a lot of local teams quite a bit. He has now been in college. This is going to be the end of his second season. He played at Moberly last year. He transferred when to Trinity Valley Community College. So Trinity Valley hired the guy who was the head coach at Mineral Area College. You got to see Cam firsthand a few times. He recruited him down to Texas. Cam took the opportunity, and lo and behold, they won the Division I Junior College National Championship just the other day. It was on national TV. It was pretty cool. Getting to see a kid from, Cape Girardeau playing on ESPN. Very, very neat, and they won the whole thing. So congrats to Cam and his teammates. Outside of just winning a national title, individually, Cam was named first-team All-American in junior college. So awesome season for him. It's been a great couple years for him at the next level. And, I've seen some people like, hey, let's get this kid up here to SEMO. I don't know. I don't speculate. I don't have any insider knowledge. Excited for him. Excited to see what the future holds for him. Very, very bright future. Very talented player. Very talented basketball family. So excited for him. Excited for them. And excited to see where he ends up. And speaking of, where people might end up, also seen some scuttlebutt. Dontrez Williams from Sykeston might have a little interest in the Red Hawks season transfer portal. He had been at Abilene Christian down in Texas. He was on the all-conference freshman team in the WAC. So pretty big deal for him, and it'd be cool if he ends up at SEMO. He might not, but if he does, a lot of local flair there for the Red Hawks. I know people, shout out Matt Brucker, talk about recruiting local, and, Coach Brad Korn has a good thing going. They're winning ball games. They're very competitive, and, he's kind of doing that. He's going to have at least P.J. Farmer, Trace Sadler, both graduating from Sykeston, Jay Reynolds. If he adds another kid, that would be a lot of SEMO representation and no excuse for people not to go check them out. Obviously, we're a long way from that at the moment, but I'm kind of keep an eye on, maybe see where some of these kids end up. And if it even end up at SEMO, it'd be cool. Outside of that, another local athlete that's now at the college level, Caden Bogenpole from Jackson, been playing really well year 2 at Missouri State. He was one of the best freshmen in the country last year, playing well again, batting .300, 7 home runs, 26 RBIs, and he's a leadoff hitter, which still doesn't necessarily compute in my brain. At like 6'5", 240, in my mind, I'm still like early 2000s. You need to look like Ichiro or Juan Pierre to be a leadoff hitter, but whatever they're doing at Missouri State is working. They picked up a big upset victory at Arkansas, who's a top 5 team just the other day. So he's playing well, team's playing well. Definitely somebody to keep an eye on if you are a fan of local sports. Check out Caden. They're playing really, really well, and he's doing so. Also a very potential high draft pick one day in the future, but once again, got a while till that happens. Last thing that's a little, outside of Cape County. I saw there's some talk of Chaffee and Scott City maybe going the co-op route for football. Chaffee, small school, kind of numbers dwindling a little bit, looking to kind of keep football dreams alive for kids, keep them in the sport. And they've kind of thought the way to maybe do that is to integrate those kids into Scott City. And I'm not going to act like I know how the whole co-op process works. I know it got approved by Chaffee on their side. I haven't seen if Scott City has approved it on their end or not. I don't know if they will, but I think it'd be really cool. It'd be a good opportunity. Because at the end of the day, for me, I just want as many kids to be able to participate in local sports as possible and live out their dreams. It's a lot of fun. It might be weird playing in a different uniform than the school you go to, but hey, if they're willing to do that and they want to keep out there playing the sport, Chaffee, maybe not the headliner of Southeast Missouri football, but I've had a lot of good players, a lot of good teams over the years, and I want to see those kids have that opportunity to keep playing. So it'd be cool if it does happen. Definitely something to keep an eye on as well. Yeah, I think that just about does it for me. It's pretty much all the sports to talk about, all the individual stuff, outside the show stuff to talk about. So I appreciate everybody who listens, everybody who watches weekly. It's been a lot of fun so far doing this, keeping up with this, and I'm excited to see where we keep going from here. Like I said, we want to do some more interviews, probably do some more coaches that are out of season. I like to try to give coaches in season a little bit of space. I know they're super busy with practices every single day and games, stuff like that. So probably won't talk to too many spring sport coaches until summertime. In the meantime, I'm planning on talking to some more winter sport coaches, get a couple more of them in here, just kind of wrap up what they've been up to, their seasons and everything, and kind of talk about the years that they've had. And so it's been a lot of fun to this point, and I'm excited to keep it going. Like I said, make sure to follow us, like, subscribe, YouTube, Facebook, leave reviews on Apple, Spotify, etc. We really appreciate it, really enjoy the interactions. Follow us on social media, Exit 99 Sports, on any type of social media. My goal with social media, not to do anything for my own personal self. It's to just, amplify the kids in this area, get them in front of as many eyes as possible, because they put in a lot of hard work, a lot of time and effort. So just try to do anything I can to highlight what they do. And that's the entire reason I do this and enjoy doing it so much, getting to see, the athletes that provide all the entertainment, all the fun. So appreciate all of you for listening, watching. Keep listening and watching wherever you find podcasts, YouTube, like I said, Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere you might look for us, we'll be there. And in the meantime, we appreciate it. Cody should be back in the next episode. Get to listen to somebody besides just me ramble up here, so that might be appreciated. But regardless, I appreciate all of you who do listen, who watch every week. It's been a good one. Can't wait to see you in the next one.